Hello, my miraculous friend, and welcome to another episode of the Magnify Your Miracles podcast. This is Reverend Frances Baden, and I'm so grateful to be here and to get to spend this time with you today talking about miracles. But before we get started with today's very special topic, let's take a few deep breaths together. Just get ourselves grounded and centered, really open and receptive. So if you're driving, keep your eyes open, but you can still bring your awareness to your breath. Breathing in the energy of expansion, breathing out anything that you no longer need. And as you are focusing on your breathing, just allowing your mind to become a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more aware. Really, we're wanting it to just be open and receptive so that whatever it is that you're supposed to hear today will be received easily. And knowing that whatever you need to hear is exactly what you'll be hearing. Let's take one more deep breath together in gratitude, and we can begin. All right, my friend. Well, welcome once again to the Magnify Your Miracles podcast. I want to talk to you today about a really special story about Mother Mary. Now, you know me. I'm an interfaith minister, which means I honor all paths, and I'm never going to ask you to believe what I believe, but I will share with you my experiences and what I have come to learn. And I can just invite you. I just invite you to consider these things that I'm sharing with you, see if they resonate with you. If they do, great. If they don't, that's fine too. I'm really here just to offer you another perspective. So Mother Mary is really known as, really known for her miracles. She's known for her apparitions. She's known for keeping the company of archangels, as we know from the New Testament. She does have the wonderful encounter with Archangel Gabriel, who extends the invitation from God. If she would like to follow this amazing plan, that she's able to bring this amazing light into the world. And of course, she says yes. And from that point forward, miracles seem to just be her natural way of being in life. That doesn't mean that she didn't have challenges and she didn't have problems and sorrow and all of that. But Mother Mary really is, in my opinion, the great magnifier. She said yes to God and allowed that light to come through her, that light of Christ to come through her. And from that was able to then magnify that light and then really bring it to the world in a tangible way. And I believe that she's still helping all of us to do that, because I think that the true essence, not the person, but the true essence, the light of Christ, the seed of God that is within all of us, I believe that she's still trying to help us to bring that life to fruition. And that's what Magnifying Your Miracles is all about, is really allowing what is already within you, the miraculous energy within you, to be magnified, to be filled with light, to be supercharged, so to speak, so that you can experience more and more of that miraculous energy, and you can be a channel of that miraculous energy. Now, we know from the stories that we've heard that when she appeared in Lourdes, France in 1858, I think it was, there was a spring of water, miracles happened. People would put their children in the spring and they would come back to life, and people had blindness that was cured, and all kinds of things have happened. And of course, we know the beautiful story of Our Lady of Guadalupe when she asked St. Juan Diego to bring the roses in the middle of winter, bring the roses to the bishop. And when he did, and he opened his cloak that was carrying the roses, of course, we have the beautiful image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, the only supernatural image that we know, the only supernatural painting that we know of, painted or created by Divine Mother herself. And so these are all amazing. And we can be in awe of these things. I've heard stories of people who have gone to Medjugorje, and when they go there, they have their simple rosary in their pocket, their chain link rosary made with silver or sterling silver or whatever it might be, just like stainless steel, simple, simple things. And that the rosary turns into gold. I've heard that. I've heard personal accounts from people that I know who've shown me their rosary and said, yeah, this was just a regular rosary. And when I went to Medjugorje, they didn't even necessarily have an encounter with Mother Mary where like an apparition, but just being in the powerful energy there of so many apparitions, the vibration is so high that there's this spiritual alchemy that happened where a lower vibration turned into a higher vibration. And that's just an outer symbol of what's happening for us on the inside, that Mother Mary is able to take the heavy energy, the energy that is steel or lead, and turn it into spiritual gold. And it's such a beautiful thing. So we have all these amazing, miraculous stories. And yet, what is the greatest miracle of all? Well, I'm going to share with you what I think is the greatest miracle of all. At least it's the greatest miracle to me, because it's something that we all can follow and we can all aspire to. And I have to give you a little bit of a background before I tell you about it, because you may or may not know this story. So there was a great woman who was a visionary, Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich. And she was a German mystic and visionary. And she was able to see Mother Mary's life. She was able to see the life of Christ, both before he was born, during his life, parts that were missed, and then even after his death and his resurrection. She communed with him. She communed with Mother Mary and got to see in great detail things about her life that were not included in the four Gospels or in the book of Acts at all in the New Testament. And so you might say, like, well, how do we know? How do we know this? Well, one of the ways, and when you're a visionary, I know, because I'm always interpreting spiritual information as well. And I try to be as humble as I can, because I know that I might be misinterpreting things sometimes. I always think, Mother Mary, I know that your energy is always true. And I ask for the ability to be able to translate things as accurately as possible so that they're the most helpful that they can be. So this woman, Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich, was a visionary. She had these amazing experiences where she had visions, she conversed with Mother Mary, she had these amazing things happen. And she saw what happened at the end of Mother Mary's life. And so a lot of people think that Mother Mary is buried in Jerusalem. But according to Anne Catherine Emmerich, that's not what happened. What happened was that about 18 months before she was getting ready to cross over, she wanted to go back to the Holy Land one more time because she was living in Turkey. She was living in Ephesus, the town of Ephesus, or the city of Ephesus. Now, again, you might say, well, how do we know? Well, this visionary gave such specific details about where the house was, what it looked like, where you could find it, that excavations were done. I believe the excavations were done in the 1900s, I think. Excavations were done, and under, 2,000 years of rubble and building and all that, they actually found this little house. And you can actually Google it if you go, and I'll put a link in the show notes for you if you want to take a look at Mary's house in Ephesus. You can look it up, you can Google it, and you'll see this beautiful little stone house that has this beautiful little statue of Mother Mary there. And it has this little fountain where you can go and get some holy water. And it really has a very sacred energy. So the belief is that she and John, St. John, went to Turkey after the resurrection, after the ascension, and she lived the last 18 or so years of her life there. And she would come back to the Holy Land every now and then. So she wanted to go one more time, but when she went there, she'd fallen ill. And so they were preparing for her burial, and they found a place, they found a tomb, they got it all ready for her. And then she got well and she went back home. So the tomb that is in Jerusalem, it's believed to be her tomb, but they kind of held it there in case she needed it, because they thought she might come back to Jerusalem as her final resting place. But according to this visionary, that's not what happened. According to the visionary, what happened was Mother Mary remained in Ephesus, and about 18 months later, she made her transition. So this is the part of the story I really want to share with you. In the month of August every year, Mother Mary's transition, they call it her dormition, that it's seen as like that she just simply went to sleep. Like she didn't go through a big strenuous dying process that most of us, go through when we don't really want to leave. she just let herself, she let her spirit be, entrusted into the hands of God, and they call it her dormition. She just went to sleep. And then a couple days later, on the 15th of August, we celebrate the energy of her assumption when she was assumed into heaven, body and soul. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this story and what I've come to realize, because she's revealed some things to me. So through reading this book, Anne Catherine Emmerich, what we find is that the disciples were scattered around the world in different places, and she energetically sent out, she asked the angels to go and find them and to bring them back to her. And this process for Mother Mary, it echoes the process that Christ went through with Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and Easter Sunday, except it looks incredibly different than what he went through. So here we have Mother Mary on the energy of August 13th, which approximately August 13th, that's when we celebrate this and we honor this, is when she lets go. It's when she says, okay. And she puts her life into the hands of God one more time and lets go of being in her physical body. Now, the apostles at the time had created a tomb for her there in Ephesus, and they go and they bring her there. There's a lot of sorrow. Everyone's sad when Mother Mary passes, and they lay her in the tomb that is picked out there in Turkey, in Ephesus. And, they close up the tomb and they do the last rites and all of that. But St. Thomas, remember our good friend St. Thomas? St. Thomas is in India, and he doesn't get there until after Mother Mary has left her body, after her dormition. And he really wants to see her. He wants to see the tomb. And they're like, well, all right, let's show you. So they take him to the tomb, and it's 3 days later. And they peer into the tomb, and she's not in the tomb. Now, haven't we heard this story before? So let me read you this. Now, this is from The Life of the Blessed Virgin Mary by Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich. And this is, I'm reading a PDF that you can find online. And again, I'll put the PDF in the show notes so that if you want to take a look at it, you can. Just know that Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich is very Catholic. And so her interpretation of this is through a very Catholic lens of how she's seeing everything. But this is her vision. So in a vision, she saw that Thomas and begged, he arrived and he begged to be shown the tomb of the Blessed Virgin. So the apostles, they kindled lights and they put them on staves and they went out along the way to her tomb. They spoke very little, stopping for a short time at each of the stones. They created a way of the cross on the way there. And when they came to the rock tomb of the Blessed Virgin, they all threw themselves on their knees. Thomas and Jonathan hurried towards the tomb, followed by St. John. The two disciples held back the bushes from the entrance, and they went in and they knelt in reverent awe before the resting place of the Blessed Virgin. John then drew near to the light wicker coffin, which projected little beyond the ledge of a rock. They undid the 3 gray bands which were around it and laid them aside. When the light of the torches shone in the coffin, they saw with awe and amazement the grave clothes lying before them, still wrapped round as before, but empty. About the face and the breast they were undone. The wrappings of the arms lay slightly loosened but unwound. The transfigured body of Mary was no longer on earth. They gazed up in astonishment, raising their arms, as though the holy body had only then vanished from among them. And John called out to those outside the cave and said, "Come, see and wonder. She is no longer here." Now, that in and of itself is a miracle, pretty miraculous. And again, I'm not going to ask you to believe what I believe, because it is believed that Mary's energy was assumed into heaven through the power of Christ. And if you believe that, that's perfectly fine. What I love about this story is it's an exact echo of the story of Christ, but without the pain and without the suffering and without the sacrifice. And I think it's really significant that Mother Mary gives us an example of how to go through your life and have love be the number one thing. She is an embodiment of the energy of unconditional love. How could she have conceived of unconditional love if she herself were not completely in the energy of unconditional love? I think about this a lot, that she must have been in that vibration to be able to even conceive of such a one as the energy of Christ. And so here she goes through her life, all the miracles that happen, all the sorrows that happen. She has incredible joy and incredible sorrow. And then, of course, is witness to miracles and glories that are just amazing and unfathomable for most of us. And yet, towards the end of her life, she dies without dying. They put her body to rest, and she doesn't go through any pain. She doesn't go through any torture. Now, you want to remember that all of the apostles, except for John, die pretty horrible deaths. All the male apostles, I should say, because I don't think that happened to Mary Magdalene. But all the male apostles, they died really not pleasant. They were martyred, basically, except for John. And what is it that John has that the other ones don't have? Well, John seems to have a special relationship with Christ, because several times in the New Testament, he's referred to as either the beloved disciple or the one that Jesus loved. Now, what does that mean? Because Jesus loves everybody. So what's special about John? I think what's special about John is that John actually understands Jesus and he loves him. And so what do Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary and John the Apostle all have in common, that they didn't suffer these horrific deaths, is they get it. They are one with the love of Christ. And so Mother Mary is showing us in her last act here on the planet that this was the point of his story. I know a lot of people are going to say the point of his story was about death and suffering and sacrifice and all that. And if you believe that and that works for you, that's fine. But I've been meditating on this a long time, and I've studied the religions around the world. And the thing that they do have in common is this underlying theme of love, this underlying theme of how loved we are by the divine in all its many manifestations. And so these three apostles, these three disciples, these three lovers of God, they don't go through the dying process the way that everybody else does. They are going through a really different process. Why? Because they lived in love, and then they cross over in that same vibration, because that is the point of the story, and that is the point of our lives. Now, we know that Mother Mary showing us that we can ascend, that we can have this beautiful energy of overcoming. Every year in August, she invites those of us who are devotees of hers into a very special covenant, or a very special invitation. I like to use the word invitation. It sounds a lot less formal. And she says, anything that you give to her, any sorrow, any aspiration, any dream that you give to her before her Dormition on August 13th, she will take with her into what I call her Dormition process, where she leaves the body, she leaves the heaviness of the earth, she goes into this mystical place in the in-between time, and then on the third day, she rises and she ascends. And she is able to take with her whatever you give her, whatever it is that you're wishing to overcome. Because I like to call it, rather than calling it the resurrection, I like to call it the great overcoming. The great overcoming. She overcomes the pain, the sorrow of death. She overcomes it. And then is able to be assumed into heaven because her body, the material world, and the spiritual world have become one for her. Now, again, you don't have to agree with me, and that's okay. There's lots of people who probably have a very different point of view, and that's okay too. I'm not asking you to believe it. I'm asking you to think about it and say, I wonder if that might be true. I wonder what this story is for me. I wonder what would happen if before August 13th, I offered up my deep heart's desire. Maybe I have a long-standing challenge that has been happening for years and it's a pattern and I haven't been able to let it go. What if I give it to her this year? What if I write it on a piece of paper and I put it somewhere sacred and I say, I'm going to give this to you this year. Take it through your process. It's a mystical, mysterious process. We don't know exactly what happened, but we do know that when the apostles went to find her, she wasn't there. The tomb was empty. We've heard that story before, haven't we? And it is about the power of love. That power of love withstands all things. We love the energy of Christ and that he showed us that no matter what we go through, that power of love is stronger than all of those things. And it can withstand all of those things. But Mother Mary also shows us the opposite side of the coin, which is that it's not necessary. You don't have to suffer. You can learn through love. You don't have to learn through fear. You can grow through love. You don't have to grow through pain. You can grow through pain, but you don't have to. You can let yourself be assumed with her. Let her assume all of your prayers. Let her assume all of your dreams. Let her assume whatever it is that you want to give to her so that you can have that amazing overcoming vibration. So that's the story I wanted to share with you that I think is the greatest miracle of all. And of course, miracles are happening every day still. And who knows if this is the greatest one that ever will be, but I think this is the greatest one so far. And it's the one that fills me with light and hope and that feeling of love of, oh, it can be different. It can be a different story. There's a different way that we can have our lives play out. And when we fill our lives with the energy of love, all things are possible, my friend. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. If it strikes a chord for you or not, please feel free to leave a comment, leave a message for me. I love to read your comments, and I love to be in dialogue about these mystical things, because this is the way that we learn, is that we help each other. And let's do what St. Paul said, and let's think on these things. Let's think about miracles. Let's think about the things that are amazing, and let's fill our minds with the energy of love and the energy of the divine. All right. Thank you so much, my friend. God bless each and every one of you. And remember that the key to magnifying your miracles, as Mother Mary has shown us, is to recognize that your miracle is already here. Bye-bye.